At my husband Robert Brooks' funeral, my son Daniel Brooks stood at the podium with a trembling voice. And in that single moment, everything I thought I knew about my life shattered. "She was the one who was truly family to us," Daniel said, nodding toward a woman in the front row. All eyes immediately turned to Linda Mallister. She sat poised in a fitted dress, flawless makeup, and perfectly styled hair, tiny tears glistening on her cheeks. And me, Emily Brooks, Robert's wife, Daniel's mother, I sat to the side, invisible, unnoticed, swallowed by the room. My heart pounded as a dull, impossible realization began to take hold. Later, Charles Henson, Robert's lawyer, would tell me that Robert had left everything to her, every house, every account, every asset, while I, his wife of 40 years, was left with nothing. Linda Mallister embraced Daniel and smiled as if she had already won a prize she had long deserved. But then I revealed the second will, and in a heartbeat, the triumphant joy in the room vanished. I had never imagined my life could pivot, start anew at a funeral. Robert's death had been sudden, cruelly efficient. He was driving downtown that morning, the rain heavy and relentless, when the brakes on his car failed around a curve, sending him crashing into a supermarket. Gone in an instant, Dr. Avery Stone later assured me he hadn't suffered, but somehow that felt like a small mercy, almost irrelevant in the face of the deception I was about to discover. We had been married 40 years. 40 years of what I had believed was companionship, loyalty, and mutual care. I thought our marriage, while quiet and unromantic, was solid, like one of those weathered old houses, worn, patched, but standing against time. I had given up my career as a financial consultant to tend to the home, every corner, every obligation, because Robert had promised, "I'll take care of you. You don't need to work." I had believed him. Naively, I had called it love. At the memorial, I wore Robert's favorite charcoal gray wool coat, standing by the chapel entrance to greet the guests. The wind whipped around me, biting my numb fingers, but I forced a smile, maintaining appearances. Robert had always cared so deeply about appearances, about how others saw him. Even in his death, I found myself playing the role he would have demanded, keeping everything neat, orderly, proper. Daniel, our only child, now 33 and a back-end engineer, stood at the podium wearing a sharp dark suit. His face was calm, controlled, but there was a tremor in his voice, an edge of emotion he could not completely hide. After reading a tribute to his father, he paused, blinking rapidly. "There's someone I want to give a special thank you to," he said, voice cracking slightly. I gripped my handbag, knuckles white, thinking he was about to say my name. I imagined hearing him acknowledge 40 years of care, quiet nights spent by his side in hospitals, the unglamorous, steadfast sacrifices I had made in the name of our family. I thought finally, he would see me. But what came next cut through me like a dull, relentless blade. Someone who supported my father through the toughest time of his life, Miss Linda Mallister. A soft murmur ran down the chapel aisle. Linda stood gracefully, dabbed her eyes, nodded politely, and sat back down. She wore a deep emerald green wool coat, black heels, and flawless hair. I felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath me. Linda Mallister. I knew the name. She had started as Robert's administrative assistant, later promoted to consulting partner, even briefly joining the board. Whenever I asked about her, Robert had brushed me off. "She's competent. Don't be paranoid." I remembered one company party when she had brought me wine, smiling sweetly, moving effortlessly among colleagues. I had dismissed her then as just another ambitious employee. Looking back now, the irony stung like acid. Someone whispered, "She's sitting so close, like she's family." And Daniel, my son, my child, had just publicly thanked her at his father's funeral. The sensation of being erased, of not existing in my own life, overwhelmed me. I felt my chair drop beneath me, ears ringing, the room vibrating faintly. People approached, offering the usual condolences. He was a good man. We'll miss him. I nodded automatically, my body a machine performing pre-programmed motions. I had planned to endure to the end, maintaining appearances for Robert, but then Daniel leaned toward Linda and whispered, "You're the one who's truly family." I almost dropped my teacup. The truth crystallized. This funeral was not for Robert. It was for a hidden world I had never known. And I was a stranger, a discarded observer. That night, I sat in the empty living room, coat removed, the satin ribbon wrinkled as if mocking the last remnants of my marriage's dignity. At the dining room table, I stared at the row of empty chairs. Robert's chair remained untouched, hand on the armrest, waiting for the soup I would never bring again. In the fridge, bottles of his favorite bitter beer stood cold, a cruel reminder of routine and habit. Sleep refused me. I pulled out old photo albums, glimpses of a younger, happier life staring back. Robert smiling easily, eyes bright, while I, short-haired and self-assured, sat in board meetings as a young financial consultant. "You should quit. I'll take care of everything," he had said, and I had trusted him. I closed the album, poured water, and realized that all the patience, all the pride I had invested in our marriage had been buried with his sudden death. The next morning, Charles Henson's office smelled faintly of ink and aged wood. Sunlight cut across the floor in narrow strips, a crooked print of the Constitution on the wall. Every word of the will struck like a line of a script I had never been invited to read. The majority of Robert's assets, the Summerall residence, the Nantucket vacation home, and all remaining accounts were left to Linda Mallister. I was stunned. I felt as though I had been pushed off the stage of my own life, left behind the curtain, uncertain if I had ever truly played the role I thought I had. Daniel sat perfectly straight, hands interlocked, face composed, expression unchanged, as if he had known all along. I turned to him, voice trembling. "You knew, didn't you?" His reply calm and serene. "Dad had his reasons." "His reasons?" I whispered, words choking in my throat, realization blooming like ice in my chest. What did 40 years of marriage mean to him? I whispered, voice trembling. Daniel Brooks was silent for a moment, eyes fixed as somewhere beyond me, then said softly, "He worked hard his whole life. Linda was there for him. She understood him." His voice dropped almost apologetically. "You didn't?" That single sentence hit me harder than I could have imagined. In that moment, it became painfully clear. I hadn't just lost my husband, Robert Brooks. I was losing my son too. Daniel wasn't defending his father's memory. He was redrawing the family tree and erasing me from the map. When I got home, I lingered in the driveway, the weight of my handbag pressing painfully into my arm. I stood there for what felt like hours before stepping inside, moving silently through the house that had once been our shared life. In Robert's closet, his shirts, ties, and wool vests were still perfectly aligned, each garment carrying the faint, familiar scent of his meticulousness. But beneath the comforting order lay a web of lies. When had he decided I was no longer family? Was it the year I forgot to buy his favorite wine for our anniversary? Or the year I gave up my career as his financial consultant to become a full-time homemaker? I began rifling through drawers, desperate for proof I wasn't losing my mind-old ledgers, receipts, photographs, business cards. In the kitchen, I discovered a folder of letters Robert had kept. One, from the Nantucket Property Management Company, was dated 6 years ago. The recipient, Linda. My hands shook as I held it. I had been to that seaside house countless times, never realizing I was only a guest. That afternoon, I walked across the street to visit Giselle, our neighbor for decades. A widow in her late 70s, her sharp memory matched the blooms of her meticulously tended rose garden. When I mentioned Linda's name, I said carefully, "Wasn't she the one Robert used to take to the symphonies?" Giselle's face stiffened. "You didn't go with them?" I forced a dry smile. I had never enjoyed social events much. She stirred her tea, thinking, "Oh, I always thought they were an item." She's been on this street several times. One year she helped Robert put up the Christmas lights. My chest tightened. That Christmas, I had been confined upstairs with a swollen knee. Robert told me a neighborhood boy had helped. Giselle nodded slowly. I think they started getting close at least 10, maybe 15 years ago. "I saw her around here when you were away caring for your sister." I assumed she was some cousin. 15 years. 15 years I had poured my life into our family, managing every penny of our retirement, tending to his health, rescuing his company during crises, and he had been quietly building a golden future for another woman. Out of sight, out of reach. I knew what had to be done. That afternoon, I picked up the phone and called a lawyer specializing in fraud and corporate law. "I have a situation," I said, my voice steady and sharp. "I believe my late husband systematically diverted company funds to his longtime mistress." On the other end, Michelle Robinson, a woman in her mid-50s with a warm but no-nonsense tone, listened quietly. "Send me everything," she said. "Every document, every email, every photo." I hung up and began compiling files, over 50 documents, meticulously organized, printed, and arranged in a folder. I carried them to her office downtown, a sleek glass skyscraper overlooking the Chicago skyline. When Michelle walked in, she had a professional, reassuring smile, her sharp haircut framing her chin, her tailored suit impeccable. She took the folder, flipped through it with careful eyes, and nodded. "We'll go through this," she said. "I'll be in touch." "Thank you," I whispered. "She betrayed me, and my son helped her. I want every cent back." Michelle adjusted her glasses, her tone firm. "We'll do our best." The following months were a whirlwind of meetings, emails, and legal maneuvers. The lawsuit against Linda Mallister made ripples far beyond our small circle. Robert's former firm, his estate, even his lawyer became entangled in the proceedings. Daniel, my own son, took Linda's side. "You're destroying his memory?" he said, his voice sharp over the phone. "Daniel," I replied, my voice steady, "your memory of your father is a fairy tale. He was a con man who used money to betray me, his wife, and his son's mother. That is the truth." He hung up and I waited for a call that never came. It hurt, but I pressed on. I had to. When the case finally went to court, Linda and her lawyer tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. They claimed the funds were legitimate consulting payments and produced fabricated invoices, supposedly signed by Robert. But we had Ruth's meticulous records and Robert's Facebook photos. I took the stand, my voice calm but unwavering, recounting 40 years of marriage, every sacrifice, every quiet heartbreak, and the moment I discovered the truth. The judge, a dignified black woman in her mid-60s, listened with understanding, her eyes reflecting the weight of what I had endured. In the end, justice was served. The court ordered Linda to repay every dollar, including interest over $1 million, and to sell the properties purchased with Robert's ill-gotten funds. Her reputation, career, and fortune evaporated. I never saw her again. Daniel, meanwhile, did not speak to me for years. But when my father passed, he reached out. We met at the funeral, embraced, and slowly began rebuilding our bond. I told him everything, and he started to understand. Time softened the distance, and eventually he apologized. "I was only defending an illusion," he said. I held him close. "I always believed in you," I whispered. Tears filled our eyes, and for the first time in years, our hearts aligned. He smiled softly. "Mom," he said, "when did you get so good at giving speeches?" I laughed, a warm, unburdened sound. "I always was. You just weren't listening." We laughed together, and laughter echoed around us, light and freeing. Later, I wandered into the garden, stopping before the crabapple tree I had planted 20 years ago. "Last year, I almost cut you down," I murmured, "but this spring you bloomed earlier than ever." The women standing nearby chuckled softly. "Even she knew," I added, "that what is alive should never be abandoned." That night, after everyone had left, I folded the chairs, stored them in the shed, and let the porch wind chimes tinkle gently in the breeze. I watched the sunset over the old maple tree at the street's end, as if it were asking, "Who are you, really?" I slipped off my heels, walked barefoot into the house, hung up my dress, and climbed into bed. For the first time in decades, I knew without doubt who I was. I was Emily Brooks, survivor, fighter, and woman set free by the truth. You were just too strong, too strong. That was the verdict I had been given for decades. Too strong to be loved, too capable to be needed. I thought of all those nights balancing overdue accounts, the afternoons I cooked while running a fever, the years I swallowed my tears when Robert's silences cut too deep, yet kept smiling anyway. That photo in my hand felt heavier than any weight I had carried in my life. I returned it to my wallet instead, feeling a calm firmness settle into my chest. You're right, I thought. I was too strong. And starting today, I would save that strength for myself. Whatever Daniel said next, it didn't register. I walked out of the cafe, stepping into the parking lot where rain fell in slow, relentless rhythm tapping against the windshield like a silent symphony. I slid into the driver's seat and gripped the wheel, breathing in the damp, cool air, understanding that what I had lost wasn't just my husband, it was my marriage, my family, even my son. And yet, in the same breath, I realized that I could no longer wait for someone else to define me. It was time to live for myself. At first, I had thought Linda Mallister was a late-life accident in Robert Brooks' story, a brief interlude that would vanish once he was gone. But the truth was clear now. She had planned everything, positioning herself to take a seat at the center of the life she had no right to. On a rainy afternoon, I sat at the kitchen table, a mug of cold coffee in my hands, scrolling through her public Facebook profile. The profile picture showed her on a beach, smiling softly, the background blurred as though to conceal secrets. Her bio read, consultant in the architecture sector, lover of classical music and community service, grateful for life's tender company. I clicked through her albums. There was Robert Brooks, seated in a wicker chair, holding a slice of lemon pie she had made him. Text overlaid, "His smile is my favorite reward." The date stamp, 6 years ago, the same year I had been bedridden with arthritis. Robert had told me he was overwhelmed with work and traveling often. I believed him. I had thought he was evading care, when in truth he was living another life without me. I scrolled further Robert helping her plant flowers, arranging bonsai, smiling relaxed, radiant. Then a video, Robert toasting her with a Christmas song in the background. And there was Daniel, younger, shy, still in college, Linda's arm around his shoulder. She laughed. "Your dad should be proud of you." It hit me like a blow I couldn't dodge. Linda was never just Robert's secret. She had been weaving herself into our family for years, carefully, deliberately, while I was kept blind. I called Ruth Lanier, a former colleague from Robert's firm, one of the few women I had trusted to stay in my orbit. She answered on the second ring with her familiar sharp warmth. "Maggie, I've been meaning to call you about Robert." "I'm so sorry." "Thank you, Ruth," I said, no pause, no hesitation. "I need your help. I believe Robert used company, funds for the past decade to acquire properties for Linda, And there may be other unaccounted transfers. Ruth went silent, then said carefully, "You're not just fixing a marriage, Maggie. You're exposing fraud." "I want the truth," I said. "I've been in the dark too long." We agreed to meet in 2 days. In the meantime, I became a woman on a mission, poring over public property records in summer ball. One villa under Linda's name, purchased 5 years ago, coincided with the tail end of the employee housing benefits project Robert had overseen. I remembered visiting that home during the project and joking about coming along. He deflected, claiming I wouldn't like it there. Now I knew it was never for clients. 2 days later, I drove to Ruth's pale gray bungalow in a quiet suburb. She greeted me with lemon tea, opening her laptop with practiced efficiency. "I checked archived payment records," she said, scrolling through entries labeled outside consulting support. "But the beneficiary company is a shell. No physical office listed." My stomach nodded as she zoomed in. $50,000 paid the same month I had been home recovering from surgery. Ruth's glasses caught the light. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Most people would let it go. I didn't answer. I saved a screenshot. On the drive home, autumn sun slanted across the windshield. The radio played a soft 60s ballad. The chorus lingered, "You only find the truth when you stop pretending." Back home, I saved Linda's Facebook images into a folder named Evidence. I was no longer the woman who hid behind domestic routines. I was Emily Brooks, legal wife of Robert, mother of Daniel, erased from my own life, and now ready to rewrite the ending. Just as I scrubbed the kitchen sink, Ruth's second batch of documents arrived. Sunlight striped the countertop, silent and perfect, like the life I had once maintained. The subject line read simply, "3 suspicious transactions preliminary legal feasibility assessment." I opened it. PDFS detailed transfers totaling over $350,000, staggered across 5 years, tied to Kink Consulting LLC, linked directly to Linda, timed carefully outside official audit cycles. Ruth's note was blunt. "Unless invoices for equivalent services exist, this is potentially a fraudulent gift." I stared at the screen, chest tight, but a new clarity settled within me. There it was, the proof. The knot in my chest resolved into purpose, and I finally understood that the next chapter of my life would be written on my terms. I knew what had to be done. That afternoon, I picked up the phone and called a lawyer specializing in fraud and corporate law. "I have a situation," I said, my voice steady and sharp. "I believe my late husband systematically diverted company funds to his longtime mistress." On the other end, Michelle Robinson, a woman in her mid-50s with a warm but no-nonsense tone, listened quietly. "Send me everything," she said. "Every document, every email, every photo." I hung up and began compiling files over 50 documents, meticulously organized, printed, and arranged in a folder. I carried them to her office downtown, a sleek glass skyscraper overlooking the Chicago skyline. When Michelle walked in, she had a professional, reassuring smile, her sharp haircut framing her chin, her tailored suit impeccable. She took the folder, flipped through it with careful eyes, and nodded. "We'll go through this," she said. "I'll be in touch." "Thank you," I whispered. "She betrayed me, and my son helped her. I want every cent back." Michelle adjusted her glasses, her tone firm. "We'll do our best." The following months were a whirlwind of meetings, emails, and legal maneuvers. The lawsuit against Linda Mallister made ripples far beyond our small circle. Robert's former firm, his estate, even his lawyer became entangled in the proceedings. Daniel, my own son, took Linda's side. "You're destroying his memory?" he said, his voice sharp over the phone. "Daniel," I replied, my voice steady, Your memory of your father is a fairy tale. He was a con man who used money to betray me, his wife, and his son's mother. That is the truth. He hung up and I waited for a call that never came. It hurt, but I pressed on. I had to. When the case finally went to court, Linda and her lawyer tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. They claimed the funds were legitimate consulting payments and produced fabricated invoices, supposedly signed by Robert. But we had Ruth's meticulous records and Robert's Facebook photos. I took the stand, my voice calm but unwavering, recounting 40 years of marriage, every sacrifice, every quiet heartbreak, and the moment I discovered the truth. The judge, a dignified black woman in her mid-60s, listened with understanding, her eyes reflecting the weight of what I had endured. In the end, justice was served. The court ordered Linda to repay every dollar, including interest over $1 million, and to sell the properties purchased with Robert's ill-gotten funds. Her reputation, career, and fortune evaporated. I never saw her again. Daniel, meanwhile, did not speak to me for years. But when my father passed, he reached out. We met at the funeral, embraced, and slowly began rebuilding our bond. I told him everything, and he started to understand. Time softened the distance, and eventually he apologized. I was only defending an illusion, he said. I held him close. I always believed in you, I whispered. Tears filled our eyes, and for the first time in years, our hearts aligned. He smiled softly. Mom, he said, when did you get so good at giving speeches? I laughed, a warm, unburdened sound. I always was. You just weren't listening. We laughed together, and laughter echoed around us, light and freeing. Later, I wandered into the garden, stopping before the crabapple tree I had planted 20 years ago. Last year, I almost cut you down, I murmured, but this spring you bloomed earlier than ever. The woman standing nearby chuckled softly. Even she knew, I added, that what is alive should never be abandoned. That night, after everyone had left, I folded the chairs, stored them in the shed, and let the porch wind chimes tinkle gently in the breeze. I watched the sunset over the old maple tree at the street's end, as if it were asking, who are you, really? I slipped off my heels, walked barefoot into the house, hung up my dress, and climbed into bed. For the first time in decades, I knew without doubt who I was. I was Emily Brooks, survivor, fighter, and woman set free by the truth.